What's going on, YouTube? It's Sensei, a place to be. Chill, trying to send you back with some more. Well, it's not the Wednesday Night War anymore, but this is the way I'm going to be doing things now. So it took me a while to figure this out. Actually, it really took me a while to figure this out. I've just been busy, but I was like, the way the schedule goes, I can't review wrestling 4 nights in a row. I just cannot do it. And I'm still debating if I should even do Raw anymore, to be honest with you. But I was like, well, I like the format of NXT and AEW. So I that's the way I'm going to go. So it's going to be a similar, like, still, version. I'm also called the Wednesday Night War, even though it ain't the Wednesday Night War anymore. But first time I did this in a while. Just me sitting here on this review. So we got NXT taking on AEW this week. Both great episodes of wrestling this week. I really should have not wasted my time, but I know everybody wanted me to talk about Eva fucking Marie. But we're here talking about NXT and AEW right now. So first off, we got the blood and guts on AEW side. And I have not been doing a podcast so you guys to talk about the blood and guts stuff like that. And on NXT side, we have a street fight for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. So we got a lot of good things to go over first off. So let's go. And by the way, NXT had a lot of like takeover level matches on NXT this week. So we start off NXT with the Falls Count Anywhere matchup with Leon Ruff taking on Isaiah Swerve Scott. These guys, very athletic contest. When you thought Leon Ruff was a jobber, which he was, and he came with North American Championship, now seeing him in this matchup, this man can really go. And I'm glad that he's going up there with somebody like Swerve to kind of like bounce around and stuff like that. These guys are taking some pretty big bumps. Like Swerve does the whole Death Valley type of attitude adjustment to Leon Ruff and throws him into the barricade. I think hurts. There's a point where Leon Ruff is holding on to the gate that's on the outside, and then he gets flipped up into a JML driver on the outside and like it hurt. But one of the biggest spots was Isaiah Swerve Scott is on the apron, and then Leon's on the top rope, and then he goes and gives him a Poison Rana, backwards Poison Rana off the apron, and it Swerve hit the floor. That thing was crazy. So they go to the fight to the back, and then they come out, and Ruff is about to jump off like this barricade type thing, but then this guy named AJ Francis is part of Swerve's crew now. I was like, who's this? Who's this guy? I don't know. Gives Leon Ruff AA attitude adjustment right on the barricade, and then Swerve drags him to the ring, hits another JML driver, and wins the matchup. So Swerve got some back help. Great matchup, great opener. Like I said, this was takeover level stuff for the Falls Count Anywhere stuff. It was really good. So, after we come back from commercial break, we see Austin Theory and Johnny Gargano backstage. William Regal's talking to Scarlett, and he comes in there, and Gargano rants about not having time to talk. And then Regal said, "Can we talk about this?" He said, "All right, fine. I'm the #1 champ, but you don't got time to talk to me. Fine." And then so as he leave, Austin Theory was like, "Those are some really big nails. Are they real?" I mean, of course they're real, but he just it gets out. Asher Hale taking on Cameron Grimes. Not too much going on here as Cameron Grimes wins, still playing up the the big money. Cameron Grimes going to the moon. Well, tonight he's going to the VIP room. So okay. Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro is like, we're moving on from Xia Li, as y'all should, because she kicked your ass, okay? So, but they have their eyes set on the goal where Tyler Valkyrie cuts them off. I don't know what her NXT name is. Like I said, it's been a couple weeks since I actually sat down and watched NXT, but cut them off and talk about how cute they are. But it's going to take them a really long time to be ready for them tag team titles. But she believes in them. Oh, Monet. Was it Monette or Monet they call her? But I mean, I like the team of Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter, but they're not ready. First of all, I'll get to it later when we get to it that night about how the tag teams just going back and forth and hopping the potato. Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa taking on the Grizzled Young Vets. Good hard-hitting strikes match between these two. Thatcher and Ciampa come out in the matching jackets and everything like that, so they are really going on with this tag team thing here, and it's a good matchup. I'm a fan of Grizzled Young Vets, but I fucked this stuff. But Ciampa and them got the win on Grizzled Young Vets in this matchup. I was like, okay, so they're trying to put them over as an established team because Grizzled Young Vets is an established team. Backstage, Gargano's walking to Regal's office, and then Regal catches up with him, and he talk about that. We need to talk about this Bronson Reed issue, and he says, "You're still having the match with Bronson Reed. Oh, and by the way, also, I have a message for you from Scarlett that Karrion Kross is gonna be ready to, destroy you next week. So we're gonna have a match between Austin Theory and Karrion Kross next week. I missed the stuff with Isaiah Swerve Scott and stuff backstage. Karrion Kross is in the ring, and he said 3 weeks ago he made it crystal clear whoever's ready and step up and roll for the championship that he's ready. But instead, nobody's stepping up. Everybody is afraid. And then well, here comes Kyle O'Reilly in his new look. Shout out to Kyle O'Reilly for that Easy E shirt that he had on. And he says, I'm going to let you know right now, I'm not scared of you. But then here comes Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne comes out, and Pete Dunne tells everybody, look, I don't care, about the new Kyle O'Reilly. I don't care about who's the NXT champion. So that he wants the match. And he's the best, the baddest man in NXT, and he wait for somebody to prove him wrong. But then Finn Balor comes out. Finn Balor is already up there antsy and gets all up in Karrion Kross's face. He hits him, and Karrion Kross sits back and looks both down at Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly. But then a whole brawl breaks out between these 4 men. I don't know when the next takeover is going to be, but I think a fatal 4-way matchup between all 4 of them will kind of be dope. Just saying, I think it will it'll kind of be dope. Was it Saray taking on Zaya Reamer? This was actually a pretty decent matchup for 2 women. I necessarily don't know yet, but it's still trying to push the Saray girl. She does a how Nikki Bella did the Bremo knee to the bottom row while somebody's laying on there. Well, she did a drop kick today, and it just looks sick on Miss Reamer. She pins her with a sickening Sato suplex for the win here. So Imperium was walking around backstage, and Walter is talking in German on tablet, but then he finds Alexander Wolf, and he gets up and walks away and leaves the others while Wolf looks confused. No, they look confused while Wolf gets up and walks away. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with that. We see Zaya Reamer sitting backstage holding her neck, but Saray appears and tries to talk to her. Tony Storm comes backstage and making a beeline for Zoe Stark, bumps into her, makes her way back. And then Zoe Stark sits with the Reamer. So they just had a little backstage segment right there. LA Knight taking on Jake Atlas. This match didn't last long as LA Knight hits him with the face buster stunner type thing. It kind of reminds me of a stunner that somebody slips on, and it don't take it the right way type thing. Kind of like the Donald Trump stunner. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it just don't look right at all. Well, LA Knight wins the matchup here. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell is trying to get themselves psyched up for the tag team match later on the night, and Dexter Lumis appears behind the glass door with a bouquet of roses, but LeRae knows it and casually walks over and shuts the blinds on him. So I thought that was kind of dope. Tony Storm is backstage talking about Zoe Stark being the flavor of the month, but she's gonna lose a taste in her mouth really quickly. She's gonna basically wonder she's gonna be the Hall of Famer someday. Legado del Fantasma wants especially Santos Escobar wants a rematch with Kushida for the Cruiserweight Championship, and he will face him again in the matchup. I don't know. Somebody told me it was supposed to be 2 out of 3 falls. I'm not necessarily sure what's gonna happen with that, but okay. We have a split screen interview with Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez, and it's a pretty good interview of how they do things. Raquel Gonzalez does not bring up the fact that Dakota Kai to kind of keep her away, so they're gonna eventually do the split type thing. But Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez, 2 Hispanic women going at it for the championship, that should be dope right there. I think I would definitely want to check that out. Street fight time for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, the street fight. So we got Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon going against Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. What I like that Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart did is they came out in street fight clothes. This ain't our wrestling game. We in the street fight. I used to love when we used to do that. I remember one of the first times I seen it, when it was Edge versus Shawn Michaels on Raw in 2005, and they came out in just jeans, wrapped up hands, and their respective Rated RKO t-shirts and D-Generation X t-shirts. Was it 2005 or 2006 that match happened? Whatever the case may be. Or 2007. But whatever that mid-2000s, they had a good street fight on Raw. So I recommend y'all guys go check that out. And this one was pretty good as well. Ember Moon puts a trash can over Candice LeRae, and they both do a double drop kick to it. So then they start setting up this like tower pyramid of chairs on the outside, and they sit Indy Hartwell in there. I'm telling you, I've seen Shotzi Blackheart do this spot live in person. Back when I was watching, this was the Evolution, when it was taped, when I went to the Evolution pay-per-view at the 2300 Arena, and they was taping it for the WWE Network. I forgot who she was going up against, but she had these towers of chairs. And the thing is, she would go dive through the ropes, and they would move off the tower of chairs, and she would crash and burn in that whole tower, and just it would be a sick, I will call it Darby level style bump, which just means unnecessary. So they put Indy Hartwell in there, and then she's about to go do that, but they get fire extinguished to the eyes. Match goes on, a lot of hard hit action. We go to commercial break. Shotzi Blackheart has a ladder set up from the ring to the barricade. She has Candice LeRae on there. She goes to the top rope, and she does her senton, her falling senton to Candice LeRae. Only a corner of the ladder breaks. The ladder does not fully break at all. And the reason why I think this is because Shotzi Blackheart, like I like her senton, but she's like Becky Lynch when she comes to the top rope. She don't get no air at all. If you like a character out who like launches up and comes down on that senton, which I think he has a very pretty senton, that is what Shotzi used to do. She gets no air. She look like she's getting there, but her feet just fall right off. And I'm like, that's probably why the ladder didn't break, because we go back over. Everyone sits the table to the outside. They have Indy Hartwell on the other side. She clears off the announce table, but then they attack her, and then they lay her across the announce table. Then there's the steel beam that Shotzi Blackheart climbs up, and it does a frontward splash, this time getting more air, more power, and crushes Indy Blackheart right through the table. So inside the ring, Ember Moon clashes with Candice LeRae. She's about to try to go for a side powerbomb, gets a near fall. She goes to the top rope, going for the eclipse, but Candice hits her with a steel chair. And then Shotzi comes in, and they start beating him down. The Indy Hartwell comes out, and they knock Ember out. And there's a table that's outside of the ring, right there by the turnbuckle. And Indy Hartwell Candice LeRae sets Ember Moon on the table. Indy Hartwell, shocked the hell out of me, does a springboard. She don't go to the top rope. She does a springboard elbow outside the ring to elbow to Ember Moon. I was impressed. And then we have Candice LeRae, who hits the curb on her. She puts the face right down into the chair on Shotzi Blackheart. And now your new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. So that was a pretty good matchup. And it was actually a great matchup. I enjoyed the hard hitting stuff here. I'm not a big fan, like I was saying when I was talking about Casey Catanzaro and Keaton Carter. I'm not a big fan of the hot potato thing when it comes to championships, because it was like first it was Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, and then they lost it to they lost to Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart, then Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. I'm just like, they didn't even give a chance for none of these teams to create any kind of legacy with. They're trying to create history real quick with these championships so they can get like a little photo gallery going before they even establish some kind of teams or anything like that. Now I think Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae gonna probably have it for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna get passed on to Casey Catanzaro and Katie Carter. I'm pretty sure it's gonna get passed on to another tag team they're gonna make up, whatever the case may be. But that was NXT. All right, guys, now it's time to get on to AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts. We know it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. So we had the Blood and Guts pay-per-view here. One thing I found out is the first hour of this show was taped, and they had a 50% capacity fans there at Daly's Place, and you can tell the difference with their. Now I already know we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about that Blood and Guts match, especially the finish and how the thing came off, because I'm gonna have some issues with that as well. I'm gonna talk about it. And there are a lot of people out there that hate it and love it and stuff like that. But I'm gonna just give you guys the quick thoughts. But I wanted to point out that it's 50% capacity, and the first hour was taped and stuff like that. So I think when we got to Britt Baker taking on that other girl is when we started going to the live action, and they watched people that was there like watching on screen, stuff like that. All right, so we start off with the AEW World Champion, Impact Champion, AAA Champion, Mega Champion, Kenny Omega, Lord. And Michael Nakazawa versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. So this is a tag team match. Eddie Kingston don't come out first, but then Omega attacks him from behind because Don Callis played the swerve, saying that Kenny Omega was not going to be tag teaming tonight, but then ends up attacking him from behind. So we get the tag team matchup. This was the matchup that they wanted. That they're going to threaten to break Kenny Omega's ankle if we didn't get this matchup. Okay, so the match was simple, as simple can be when it came to this tag team matchup until things start getting overbooked, and then we have the Young Bucks come out to distract Moxley as they appear in the entrance tunnel, and the Good Brothers hit the ring, and they hit the Maxi Killer on Moxley. They stop out Kingston, and the Bucks hit super kicks. They got barefoot things out on the beach, hitting Eddie Kingston with shoes, and then we have a forced one wing angel to Eddie Kingston to win the matchup as Nick Jackson counted for 3, and I was just like, okay, like I'm like, what's going on with the Elite right now? I mean, like, I don't know. And Kenny Omega got literally all the change. Like, he's like walking Armageddon. He's like Bobby Lashley from Impact, and I don't know why Impact keeps doing this. Like, Impact has a history of just putting all championships on one person. Kurt Angle back in 2007 and 8. Bobby Lashley back in, was it 2010, 2011, or 2012, 2013? No, wait, Impact 14, 15. One of them things. And then we got Kenny Omega who has all like 3 or 4 championships. He has the Impact Championship and the TNA Championship. Don't ask, okay? So I don't know what to say about that. We just got announced that there's going to be, for a Double or Nothing on May 30th, it's going to be Sheeta taking on Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, for the AEW Women's Championship. Now, I know people were thinking, well, wasn't Red Velvet ahead of her? But Red Velvet lost to Jade Cargill. And there's another woman that was ahead of her, Ty Conti, I think it was. And she lost. So then, once again, 8-1, Britt Baker, especially after getting so much praise for that lights out match with Thunder Rosa, you knew it was coming. So now we got a grudge match. We got the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes taking on QT Marshall. I'm not the biggest QT Marshall fan, but I thought the match was pretty solid. I thought the match was pretty good. QT Marshall is pretty good for what he does, but he's just so vanilla to me. I'm sorry. I'm just something about QT Marshall I really like. And I was like, Cody doing him a solid right now. Try to give him the rub, which I don't know if it worked. He did a nice little Undertaker Stone Cold Tombstone spot from Highway to Hell 1998, where they do, QT the Tombstone, then Cody versus it, then QT versus it, then Cody versus it again to hit him with a Tombstone. But Cody gets Crossroads by QT Marshall. No sells his move whatsoever. And then he hits a Crossroads on QT Marshall. QT Marshall kicks out. And I'm like, okay, so what's the finish here? He finished him off with a figure 4. Figure 4. I know Primetime somewhere is steaming because I'm like, why is that the Cody finish off move right there? I'm like, it should be the Crossroads, not the figure 4. Not the figure 4. The figure 4 could be a good setup move. Unless you're Ric Flair, you don't finish with the figure 4. I don't care who you are. That's how I am for that. So backstage, Alex Marvarez interviews All Ego, Ethan Page, and Scorpio Sky. Scorpion Sky said they weren't afraid of Sting, and he actually calls him Steve. At one point, he says he's the franchise now, bitch. And then Ethan Page tells Darby Allin that we're not going to go over the history that we had wrestling in the ring. And the only reason why you wear face paint is because you're trying to hide the dent that I put in your head. So I was like, yeah, it was all right. I was like, Dave Scorpio Sky going full heel. I guess, the whole SCU thing is done, which is going to be in a minute, too. So next we get Britt Baker, DMD, going against Rebel, not Reba. She got a shirt of it saying that now because nobody was like, is it Rebel? Is it Reba? So it's Rebel, not Reba, versus Julia Hart. So she hits a air raid crash, but she don't want to win with that. She puts on the lockjaw and wins the matchup. We get this new Techniques by Taz segment, which talking about Christian Cage and talks about his kill switch and his frog splash, which Christian's frog splash just sucks. I think it's the ugliest thing. One of the ugliest things. I'm like, no, bro, you cannot do a frog splash. I mean, it's effective. He's been doing it for years, but still, when you talk about best frog splashes in it, he's not even on the list. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, he does not get enough air or enough tuck in there to consider that even a good frog splash. But it's kind of like, if y'all remember the old SmackDown from like 2002, 2003, 2004, where Taz would do Tail of the Tape. That's what this reminded me of. So I was like, you know what? I like Tail of the Tape with Taz, so I don't mind Techniques by Taz. So we got Pop Them Hips. Next up we had a fatal 4-way eliminator matchup. The winner will face or earn a future tag team title matchup. We got SCU taking on Jurassic Express, taking on the Varsity Blondes, which I can't wait to get into. I wanted to bring the podcast back this week to talk about the Dark Side of the Ring with Brian Pillman and the Acclaim. So the match is pretty good here. There's a slow sloppy moment, especially with the choke to Kazarian to the outside. They like barely caught him and everything. That it was done, but we get the BME on the Pillman, and SCU wins. But the thing is, SCU has a storyline going on that if they lose just one more time, it's done for them. It's over. SCU breaks up, and they are doing a terrible job building that up, because they even talked about that. It was on one of them AEW Dark shows, stuff like that. It was a storyline that they never aired on TV. Like, I didn't even know about it until I wanted to get some research about it. I was like, that is just not good. Tony Schiavone interviews the belt collector, AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, to figure out what he's going to be doing at Double or Nothing. And he said there's going to be an eliminator match next week, Pac versus Orange Cassidy. Well, Kenny acting like he never heard of Orange Cassidy. He's like, look, to just bring out Pac, we'll do Pac, which Pac will be a great match. I want to see that. But we know which way this is going, okay? Orange Cassidy comes out and stares it. And he moves his sunglasses. He said, you'll never take this title, but you're taking my valuable time. And then I was like, he just looks at him, but I'm like, okay, we clearly know that it's probably gonna be Orange Cassidy. I want Pac and Omega have great matches, but for them because they're trying to have full capacity by May 30th for Double or Nothing. So they really want to test to see how over Orange Cassidy is. But he was really over at 50% capacity, so we gotta see how the thing goes on. Then Tony Schiavone interviews the Best Man Miro and says he won a TNT title shot, and he goes up against the man who doesn't mind dying. Well, he's the man that doesn't mind killing him. So I thought that was cool. Oh, by the way, Darby Allin, I forgot to mention when it came to Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, the Darby Allin attacked him, right? And Darby Allin starts getting beat up or jumped by them, and he takes a dumb bump. Darby Allin, look, y'all call me old school, whatever the case you may want, but there's bumps you take in wrestling to bring some kind of energy and life into the storyline, and there's just some dumb bumps. You just don't take them bumps. And he threw Darby Allin down the stairs. Okay? Concrete steps, 2 landings of stairs, but he only went down the first landing, and Darby Allin takes that bump. That's just not smart, especially when you got a match next week and you got Double or Nothing coming up. Like, save them bumps for the big show. And some of them you probably shouldn't even do, period. Main event time. 2 rings covered by 1 giant cage. Is blood and guts. This is the War Games match, okay? And this is, they have the 2 rings side by side. And their cage looks more like a Hell in a Cell style cage, where they got the reinforced beams in there. They got space, because if y'all remember the old WCW War Games matchup, like when they put a roof on the cage, they had no room to even do a power bomb in the ring. That's how Sid Vicious knocked out Brian Pillman. If y'all remember that War Games match was in 1988, I think it was, and he tried to get him up for a power bomb, and there was not enough room for Pillman to get all the way up. He just slammed around his head. I was like, that was stupid. So this time it actually got room for you to do moves in the ring, because it's set up like a Hell in a Cell, and it's not like it's covering the ring. It doesn't go to the floor, because you got 2 rings. You don't need things to go to the floor too. That's just overkill. And because the War Games matchup in NXT does not have a top, so they can do moves off the top into the cage. So we got the Pinnacle, MJF, Warlord, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, with Tully Blanchard taking on the Inner Circle, Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Santana and Ortiz, and Jake Hager. They go with the rules, classic rules. 2 men start. After 5 minutes, the 3rd man enters. The Pinnacle have the advantage. Match can only end when all competitors have entered the cage and War Games begins, and the match only ends by either submission or surrender, whereas in NXT you can do pinfall. So this was a submission surrender. It's classic War Games, guys. You got Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson in this business. You know we're going to get classic War Games. From Dax Harwood, he's already bleeding already. I'm like, wow, this is the one thing that we don't get in NXT, and that's blood. It's called blood and guts, so we better get some damn blood. Okay, Shawn Spears comes out next to the cage. He comes in with a steel chair, and then he pops in the chair on the turnbuckle. Sammy tries to feed him off, but then he waffles Sammy with the steel chair, but then Ortiz comes out. I like how Santana Ortiz got the Dead President's makeup on. Dead President's one of my favorite hood movies, so yo, if y'all haven't seen Dead Presidents, go check that joint out. But they got the Dead President's makeup on, so they come out there and they just start. They pop for Ortiz coming out there. He just like a pit ball off the chain, just going up there, and then Sammy hits Shawn Spears with a sickening Spanish fly after bouncing off the top rope from two separate. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it looked great. So make sure you guys go back and check that out. And then we got Jim Ross trademark. This is not the match for the Rican Heart. So Cash Wheeler enters the match next. He comes in there, runs and saves that. Everything is kind of sloppy. He just comes in there and just start hitting everybody. But he says that so FTR connected it assisted spine buster on Ortiz. And then Spears ran Sammy into the cage, and then they're running back and forth here. Santana comes out next, so now we have Pride Powerful that's in the ring with it. And then he clean house for the Pinnacle and stuff like that. Biases everywhere, as you know. Warlow came in, they started manhandling everybody. Then when we came in there, Jake Hager comes in there, so he talks to everybody. Then we had the big man stare down, and so when you got the big man stare down, they go in there and then they begin to go in and knee Warlord. MJF is out next, and he distracts Hager, and while Warlow chop blocks him, and then they start jumping up on Hager, and then MJF tells Jericho, tells him, I can't wait for you to enter this cage. He said something like that, wait for you to enter the cage, or whatever the face may be. So then Chris Jericho is the last one to enter the ring, and then now Inner Circle's in one ring, and then the Pinnacle's in the other ring. It's time to begin Blood and Guts. I'm like, oh god, they got the War Games name in WWE, so it's time to begin Blood and Guts. So then we go ahead and we just start beating them up. They all teams all fighting, everything like that, and everything is legal. Referee can't do anything. But the Spears tries to climb the cage, but Jericho starts to choke him. Terrible walls of Jericho. It doesn't look good. And then so we go to the outside. Now this is the first time the War Games people start going to the outside. Jericho and MJF climbed the ring. There was one point where I don't know if it was a fork or something like that, where Santana's was like stabbing somebody in the head with the fork and licks the blood off. Gross. I don't need, especially during COVID, I don't need any of that stuff. So Jericho is on the top, applying the walls Jericho to MJF, but then he uses he gets out of it and hits the salt to the earth on Jericho on armbar, and then Jericho bites him off. He uses his ring. He's Jericho with the ring. Now Jericho's bloody, and then he says, "Look, if you don't surrender, I'm throwing Jericho off the cage." And I was like, "Oh, last I seen somebody get tossed off the cage when the ramp was right there was when Chris Kane got tossed off the triple cage." And I was just like, "Oh my god, they're gonna really take out Jericho, who's damn near 50. You gonna take that bump?" And then so Sammy Guevara's plea for MJF to stop, and then they in the circle surrender. I was like, "Oh, see." I know you're going to use Jericho for that. I know you're going to probably use Sammy for that. Because this is a Sammy bump, okay? This is a Sammy style bump. And I was just like, well, I figured they'd probably do that Jericho surrender, stuff like that. But no. We do it this way. And so the Pinnacle wins the match, which they should have anyway. But then MJF's not done yet. He picks Jericho up again and says, screw this. And throws him off the cage anyway. So everybody's like, oh my God. And then Jericho hits the worst setup I have seen in a wrestling bump in my lifetime, because this one is clearly, it can't look no faker. It is clearly cardboard, and I mean, you can tell Jericho laid on falling on like one big ass pillow that's covered by this cardboard that's taped with the metal grates on there. It just looked bad, and they kept showing the replay of it. I was like, man, I thought they was gonna probably show it, see Jericho fall off, and then you just see him just down in the pile, and then they show it that way. I probably could have forgave it, but this way, after they kept showing the replay, people started booing. Now I'm pretty sure it was booing because of MJF, but I was just like, yo, that right there looks so fake. I have seen Shane McMahon jump off of literally everything that he could find his way off of the arena. And I mean, and I have seen some, like when I said Chris Kane in Triple Cage, I put it for a reason, because when he fell off, when I was a kid, when he fell off the cage, I was like, whoa, that was deep. But then when he showed it from the top, I was like, oh, he fell like on a soft mat and stuff like that. He fell off the first cage, not all the way at the top. But I was just like, okay, but even that looks still more, forgiving than that, okay? And sometimes when it comes to a match, it's how you either start and how you finish. And the match is fine. but the way it finished was just not that necessarily that good. But that does not take away that AEW wins the Wednesday Night War for me, or wins between NXT and AEW this week. So, post any comments down below. How do you guys feel about the finish of the Blood and Guts matchup? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Just post any comments down below. Hit the like button if you guys enjoy my review. Hit the subscribe button for more WWE content right here on and AEW content right here on NC Studios. So once again, it's NC and place to be. Chill Train Mr. AD, and the Nerd Coalition is out.